For over 16 years, EJDConstruction.com has provided South Florida residents quality craftsmanship, accurate project management, and exceptional service. That's why EJDConstruction.com is an A-rated member of Angie's List and the Better Business Bureau. When you're looking for the right custom home builder for additions or home remodeling, please call my friend Eric at 305-433-4843. That's 305-433-4843 for EJDConstruction.com.
There's no need to drive around South Florida wasting valuable time looking for a new or certified pre-owned Acura. Go to the #1 volume sales dealership in the Southeast United States. Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines. Purchase with pace and space in a dealership tailored to your needs. From home buying to providing that personal touch. Contact the 2020 Satisfaction Award winner Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines. 888-776-5123. That's 888-776-5123. Or visit them at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines. If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your Inter Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or intermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where Inter Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
All right, we are live. It is the Squared Circle Digest. Sean Stanley here in beautiful Miami Gardens, Florida. And it's time to talk some wrestling. That's right, some wrestling. WWE NXT on right now. Solo Sakai in action. One of the ones who I hope becomes a member of the Bloodline. A lot going on. Some things going down on Raw last night. Also, Impact Slammiversary was over the weekend. Looking back at AEW Rampage and some news in the AEW realm, but everything circles around, of course, the one, the only, no chance in hell, Vince McMahon, which, of course, not only did good old Vince McMahon show up on SmackDown, but then he's got to make an appearance. So he comes on SmackDown. He does the little slogan of WWE, welcome to SmackDown, and he leaves. Then on Raw, they play the commercial advertising Cena coming up next week. And then lo and behold, the next segment is Vince McMahon coming out to say, Mr. Hustle, Loyalty, and Respect, John Cena comes back to Raw next week. Thank you. And he leaves. I mean, at this point, I mean, I don't understand. And then it comes out later last night, John Laurinaitis has been put on administrative leave. He's the other one named in the lawsuit. He's on administrative leave. And now Bruce Pritchard has been named the interim head of talent relations. Bruce Pritchard is also the head of creative. So now, not only do you have the head of creative now who puts everything together for the talent, but now he's running the talent as well on an interim basis right now. We'll see how everything goes and plays out here during this investigation. But I do find it weird that your head of creative is now over your head of talent relations as well, because again, usually they're two separate people because some talent might not want to do something creatively. So the head of talent relations can go and talk to the head of creative and they can figure something out. Well, now guess what? It's one and the same. So, hey, good luck with that. And yes, Steve Chapman, I love you. That is right. He is Brother Love. Steve Chapman asks, what's up, Sean? Thought Raw was fair last night. Nothing special. A little disappointing in the Elias segment. I mean, I think they've gone a little far with the whole. I liked when they were kind of, playing the whole, Elias and Ezekiel and not really showing both of them. I mean, now you've shown Ezekiel, of course, of Ezekiel's wrestling, and then Elias was on last night to do his performance, his concert. Kevin Owens interrupts. And of course, he gets the guitar to the back. So I was enjoying this now that they actually put in action, and you've got, Ezekiel Elias wearing, beard, and however you want to look at it. Now I think the visual has kind of taken away from what I thought was at least good comedy in the long run. I think they could have done more comedic. I think Kevin Owens could have done something, like maybe. But then again, and then you in that whole thing of Ezekiel and Elias. So we'll see where it goes next week. I mean, it's almost, to me, it's like Ronda Rousey and Charlotte, right, Steve? Right. It's overplayed now, right? It's way overplayed now. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with it. And I'm just kidding with that, Steve. Don't go crazy on me with the Ronda Rousey Charlotte Flair. The greater good, Vince McMahon is a very, very bad man. That, you know what, man? At this point, who can argue that, right? I mean, we knew, he runs it cutthroat, of course. But now, again, this also said, and if you read the Wall Street Journal, this unearthed more NDAs that were signed by other female talent in the WWE. That means this isn't the only one. And they said it totaled in the millions of dollars as well. So again, it's always been a thing that, look, when Mickie James got released, it was, she got her stuff in a garbage bag. Of course, every time there's always a scapegoat. It gets pawned on to somebody else. Somebody loses their job. It's their fault. It's that. What it is the corporate environment is what is bad right now to me, for WWE. When you look at everything going around and everything else there, Stephanie McMahon in as an interim CEO. A lot of people believe that is just so that Vince McMahon kind of has a placehold and not replaced with not a family member. A lot of people thought maybe Nick Khan would slide into that. Nick Khan took over Stephanie's duties when Stephanie took her leave of absence for family reasons. Remember, she needed to spend more time with the family. Less than 30 days later, her dad steps down as CEO during the investigation, and Stephanie McMahon slides in and becomes the interim chairwoman, and interim CEO. So we'll see. And I agree with what you said last week. Riddle is turning into a creepy stalker a bit much as Randy. Yeah, and it got even more, I know we talked about it after SmackDown last week and everything else. It's just Triscope, what's up? I just feel like, and maybe it's more of his character and his delivery of how he, the character delivery of how he sends the words out, like, hey, bro, and all that stuff. And then it's creepy stalker now, man. It's like, Randy, we love you, man, and all that stuff. And it's like, all right, that's enough, man. That's enough. And again, you have to understand what's good on paper, and then the talent you're working with. And it's got to be put together to be a win-win, one for the company and one for, the ultimate goal of having a good, feud there. And right now, depending on, again, only going by what I'm hearing and seeing on the sheets and from Fightful, that's one of the ones who I listen to the most. His back's pretty bad. He might have to have surgery. And then I think Riddle even confirmed that he was going to have surgery, which would probably put him out till 2023. So I don't know, if that puts even more of a damper on the whole thing they were going to try to do with Riddle and Orton, or if it changes things once again. Remember, this was not supposed to be a tag team for as long as it has been a tag team. It was going to be kind of a, put them in a tag team, get to where they work it out, and Orton turns on Riddle or vice versa, and then they feud and going into WrestleMania. There was an injury, sidelined Orton for a little bit, and then they brought him in and they clicked as a tag team, and they've stayed as a tag team. And rightfully so. I mean, the RK Bro was getting over, but now with what, and with Riddle the way he is I just don't know. He almost reminds me of no, very good, 100%. Again, that's why she was put in that position. So Vince McMahon's going to run the day-to-day regardless. I mean, you see him at Raw, you see him at SmackDown, nothing changes within WWE. Nothing will ever change, as I said on the show, on Big O radio show earlier, or maybe it was yesterday. Nothing will ever change in that company until Vince McMahon is not in charge. And the only way Vince McMahon will not be in charge is if he's completely removed. Because I don't believe anything that isn't being ran through him right now. I just believe, as you said, Stephanie's there kind of in position and name, and then also, to make sure it's being ran the way Vince wants it ran. I'm not sure how it works. I've never been that high up in a publicly traded company to where I would know that if he put maybe Nick Khan in, if Nick Khan could do some sort of, not saying that this is what he would do, but if he would put in a run at becoming the CEO and replacing Vince McMahon. Again, Vince owns a lot of the B traded stocks. The A stocks are owned by, the B stocks are owned by Vince and his trusted associates, one of which is Nick Khan, the family as well. So again, man, it's very interesting. Let's see. Greg Good says, I enjoy MMA way more, or not way more. Sorry. I enjoy MMA more than wrestling. McMahon is his own worst enemy. Yeah. You know what the funny part about it is that Dana White took a lot of what Vince did and has used it to, do what UFC's doing. A lot of the, the way the vignettes are shot, the way the marketing, everything like that. He's taken a lot of that, and he's elevated some things a lot better than what Vince has had, and things like that. But ultimately, again, MMA is a different whole genre. You can get ESPN and things like that. So I think ultimately, my hat's not getting straight. I apologize there. So I think ultimately it, again, MMA to me is, again, it's a more pure sport, I guess, when you look at it. It's two guys, using their skills, whether it's boxing, whether it's, Muay Thai or whatever, whatever skill set they are, going in and doing battle, and the best person will win, man or woman. So I definitely, I talk wrestling more because I've done it, so I understand it more than MMA. MMA, I've only gotten in and rolled around. Could not do, I didn't want to do any more than that. Look at this moneymaker. Just don't get hit. Look at that. Look at that moneymaker. No, but I'm not set up for MMA. You know what I'm saying? I enjoyed pro wrestling, but watching it and things like that, definitely. Jaime Zoria in the house. And Jaime, I sent it on the chat earlier, but good luck with your procedure, my man. Prayers for you. I know all will be well, and you'll be back in the chat in no time. Some other things I wanted to go over: the ratings from last week. The Dynamite, 761,000 viewers. That's down 19% from the week before. This is AEW Dynamite. The AEW Rampage did 331,000. That was down. SmackDown did a 2.29 with Vince McMahon opening the show. And another thing I talked about on the show there, that's up 20%. And then Raw last night did a 1.98, up 17%. To put into Miz and Mrs. comes on at 11 o'clock after Raw. After Raw last night, they did a 587. Rampage did a 331. So Miz and Mrs. in the ratings is getting better ratings than AEW Rampage. Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So the procedure is actually today. I'm sorry. I thought you were going in like this week. I didn't understand. I thought you meant this week. You went in today. Well, I'm glad you're at the house recovering, my man. And hopefully the show doesn't add any more pain to you. I apologize now. Now I feel bad. Now I kind of feel like pressure's on me to make sure the pain doesn't go up here during the show. But what I found kind of disturbing in a way too is one of the things that's always said about wrestling is, where is the line drawn as far as real and wrestling? And when I saw, this comes out, what was it, on Thursday, I believe, was when Vince McMahon, the Wall Street Journal story was published. Friday, he steps down, but then he comes out and and they send out the sheet to the network. CNBC published it as well, saying, Vince McMahon will be on SmackDown tonight. The ratings go up. Vince McMahon, gets a rousing ovation. And I get it that CNBC said he's bringing back the Mr. McMahon character. That wasn't the Mr. McMahon character, one. And what the hell does it matter if it is? You're talking about, any other company, if the CEO is found to already paid one person hush money, $3 million in hush money, and there's other NDAs that they found that they're currently going through on said CEO and other executives. What other time does somebody get cheered and applauded for that? And man, I almost wonder, like, honestly, if, and you know what, you guys and gals in the chat, you might, I want to ask you this, okay? And this is after Deshaun Watson's, suspension or whatever they end up doing with him. When he takes the field for the first time in what will probably be a Cleveland Browns uniform, since they have him forever, what do you think the reaction's going to be? Because Vince McMahon, they had signs made that said, "Thank you, Vince." And I get it. His contribution to pro wrestling cannot be, I understand that. That's separate. But you cannot cheer that man walking down the ring knowing the situation of what's going on at that moment. To me, Vince McMahon's tone deaf, one, for going out on SmackDown. And I get it. There's a lot of people saying he's going out to show that, he's going to stand in front of the situation and not be pushed behind. But you just suspended the other guy in the allegations to where now he's suspended, administrative leave. But yet here you are making more appearances now in the two shows. He's been on both shows. He's made more appearances now than he's made in the last 3 years, now that these allegations have come out. And to me, it's just, I mean, I get it. It's wrestling. You separate what he's done for wrestling, and I totally understand that. But at that point, man, I almost feed into what he was hoping to get. And I think he got what he was hoping to get, a positive reaction and viewership going up because of his appearance. And I guarantee he'll be on more now. He's got nothing else to do, supposedly, if I use the air quotes correctly. Right? Stephanie's running the day-to-day. Stephanie's the interim CEO and the chairwoman now. So what's Vince doing? He's just doing creative. He can be at every show now. He can come out every time and just announce so-and-so. Steve says, Brown fans will cheer. Every other fan will be relentless. Yeah, I believe that. It's just, it is, say, mind-boggling to me, because I guess, in pro wrestling, a lot of fans are probably, maybe even, desensitized to some of this stuff that's going on. They look at it as a show. Let's see, like Big O said weeks ago, women. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Yeah, you can go back to that. You're right, Steve. You're right. But I don't understand, again, I understand what Vince McMahon has done for pro wrestling. You can't, tear that away. You can't take that down from what he has done to build up pro wrestling. But you also, to me, can't sit there and cheer him when he paid $3 million of hush money. And then during that, they've unearthed more NDAs against former female talent of WWE against him as well. I don't get it. And then, like I said, Bruce Pritchard's now been put on head of talent relations. John Laurinaitis on administrative leave. What that means, I have no idea. He was not at Raw last night. Vince, of course, was. So we'll see what happens there. Impact. I watched the Slammiversary pay-per-view this weekend, and it took me back. There's a lot of nostalgia on it. They brought out America's Most Wanted, which was James Storm and Chris Harris, Wildcat Chris Harris, who was actually in WWE at a point too. But they did so much so much on the nostalgia side. They brought them out. It was the Good Brothers defeated the Briscoes for the tag team titles. Then they came out and they all toasted a beer for Slammiversary, their 20th anniversary, by the way. TNA and Impact. And when TNA started, it was ran as weekly pay-per-views. $9.99 from the Tennessee, or was it Nashville Municipal Stadium, I believe? I believe it's where they just moved Ric Flair's show to a bigger venue because ticket sales were going so good. I believe that's where it was from. And they ran for $9.99 a pay-per-view a week. And a lot of people said they're not going to go past a month. And they did. Then they got into Spike TV and it became, they took off. There used to be NWA TNA. Then they broke away from the NWA and became TNA. And then Dixie Carter got involved. And then Dixie Carter ended up selling it and it became Impact. But they celebrated their 20th anniversary. They've been 20 years going strong. And I thought the damn pay-per-view was pretty damn good, honestly. I mean, I knew wrestling-wise, I knew it would be good because they got some great talent there. You had a Queen of the Ring match, which their Queen of the Ring match and their King of the Ring match, a little bit different. I like the way they do this, okay? They start 5 people in the match. When one person gets pinned or submitted, they're put in a cage for 2 minutes. And the person that gets the pinfall is now eligible to win the match by hanging the belt on the hook. So you have to climb the ladder and actually hang the belt to win the match. And then you had to pin, each person had to get pinned to become eligible. And I love that concept of the match. They also had the X Division match, they had a lot of different and revolutionary, not revolutionary, because all they did was they took the ladder match and just kind of reversed it backwards. So you can't say they made up, but they made it different version of the match to make it more entertaining to the fan. A person gets this, pinned, submitted, they're in the cage for 2 minutes. For 2 minutes, they're eligible for the rest of the match now to hang the belt up. And as it goes, it came down to everybody getting, pretty much eligible for the match. And then Chelsea Green and Deonna Purrazzo went up the ladder, and they took a hellacious bump outside the ring through 2 tables. And man, once that happened, then Tasha Steele, Jordan Grace took out Tasha Steele, and Jordan Grace went up for her second time to become the Knockouts champion. So To me, I thought this pay-per-view delivered. Josh Alexander, Eric Young in the pay-per-view. The future of Impact against the past of Impact. Eric Young, if you remember, he was part of Team Canada. That's where he got started at in TNA, Impact, however you want to look at it. And then now he's been on his run, and man, that match was great. Dixie Carter did appear. She made the announcement of the 5th member on there. And then AJ Styles made an appearance by video. And he was voted the X Factor wrestler that made the most impact. And he did thank WWE for allowing him to show up and be on the video as well. And some people were upset that Samoa Joe and some others weren't on the show. Samoa Joe was like, I wasn't asked and I couldn't have been if I even wanted to. So it's a non-story. Again, overall, I thought Impact did a great job. And I think they're going to be around for a little bit longer. They did get the TV deal, but again, it's on channel. What is it? It's on a channel that I don't get with Comcast. In the I forgot what channel it is now, but it's on one of those channels. But if you do get a chance and you do get to watch Impact, I do recommend the Slammiversary 20. There was also Team Impact against Honor No More. That was a pretty good match. Nick Aldis came back and was on Team Impact there. I was thinking the same thing. He's coming out every week because, like you said, the other night ratings went up when he was scheduled to chime in. To come on, I'm sorry. Yeah, no. See, I mean, again, man, Vince McMahon has always said there's no bad publicity. There's not. That's what he believes. And man, when I'm looking at this, SmackDown was up 20% from the week before. Raw was up 17% from the week before. How do you argue with that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, and Greater Good, they aren't acquiring new fans. Who are you referring to? I'm sorry. And I know sometimes you guys are a little bit, you may have started later and now you're catching up. So I'm not sure what part you were at. SmackDown used to be a must-watch entertainment. Yeah, but again, man, it's a different age now, man. It's a different time. I mean, like I'll tell you now, like SmackDown, Fox on the West Coast, at least where my dad is, they don't get Fox over there. So those households don't see SmackDown. And again, but there's so much other stuff. And now there's DVR. There's so much other stuff. You can catch it. Some people, you can catch what you want. You don't have to watch the whole show. Go to YouTube and just view the good facts that WWE put up there when they put that up there. That you'll catch what you need to catch just by watching the little bit of YouTube. I think just the way everybody watches it now, you're never going to get you're never going to get those numbers you got back in the day. If you're looking for those numbers, you're never going to get that anymore. I mean, think about it. There was 1 week where SmackDown was in contention with the NBA playoffs. And SmackDown's only doing 2.1, 2.2. And they only lost by, I think, like 0.2, or I think the NBA playoffs are at 2.4. They're not consuming TV as much like they used to. Those numbers are long gone. Cat for Life says, Sean, Vince is God, bro. He will leave this world a living legend. 30 years, brother. Dude, I mean, this is probably the closest thing since the federal government steroid trials that he's going to have to battle and contend with. And again, so far, I mean, the fact that he's showing up, and this is another thing too. Publicly traded company, Vince McMahon shows up, your numbers go up. What does that tell your board? What does that tell your shareholders about Vince McMahon? Vince McMahon pretty much saying, hey, look, all I got to do is walk through that curtain and the ratings are going to go up. He does it and they go up. Is that the guy you want removed? Not saying it's right. Not saying it's right. I'm just being honest. If you're a stockholder in that company and you can see what Vince McMahon does to numbers, do you want him removed? I mean, SmackDown went up 17%. He was not listed as being on the show. But next week, guess who comes back? John Cena returns to Raw next week. So now you have, and then now also on SmackDown, what happened on SmackDown, right? You brought back Brock Lesnar. Roman Reigns is back on SmackDown. That's going to build the ratings for them as well. John Cena coming on Raw. Ratings are going to go up regardless. You think all of this, I mean, again, maybe John Cena thing was planned because I think they were already in line for this, but also remember another thing. They were getting emails about this investigation. Do you think they might have known there might have been something coming out soon? So let's bring Brock back. Hey, let's get John Cena in. Hey, let's start boosting this shit up. There's a storm brewing. Because now, the wrestling talk is going to be, Brock Lesnar, and it had already happened. I mean, it was Brock Lesnar returns on SmackDown, takes out the bloodline. Now after Raw, now they're preparing 1 week later, it's going to be in John Cena. He's kind of washed himself out of the wrestling news cycle. Now the question is, does this go into the main media cycle? Because if this goes into the main media cycle, Vince is not going to be able to wash that and handle that area, because that is now in the national, mainstream media. The wrestling media, you bring back Lesnar, you bring back Cena, you got Roman Reigns and Riddle. You drop the whole thing about Sasha Banks being released. Is she released? Is she not released? Nobody knows. People have heard she is. People have heard she isn't. So now you've got enough news scurried around there to where Vince's whole thing kind of goes, gone. And then during Raw is when you release, hey, by the way, guys, great show we're having here, right? Oh, John Laurinaitis on administrative leave. Bruce Pritchard is now the head of talent relations during the investigation. You do that during Raw. Vince ain't a dummy, man. Vince is not a dummy, or whoever he's got working with them, they're not dummies. They know how this game is played. Jerry McDevitt, his lawyer, they know how to remember. Remember, he beat the federal government and got Vince off of what looked like he was going to jail for steroids, and selling and everything else that was going on back in that trial. And there is a Linda McMahon. I don't know what their whole relationship is. Apparently, Vince had a house or an apartment in Stamford near the WWE headquarters. So I don't know what the relationship is. I haven't really looked into that whole aspect of it. But again, remember Linda was on the Trump. She was secretary of, can't remember what she was on the Trump. She was a former United States administrator of Small Business Administration during the Trump administration. I can't believe any news that comes from wrestling. Look at it all as part of the storyline. Bromar, you're 100% true. Look, I'll tell you right now what it's believe nothing of what you hear and half of what you see. That's wrestling. And especially now, I think the MJF thing, the situation there. Is it a work? Is it a shoot? Did it turn into is it a work shoot? Is it, I mean, you ended up getting Discovery involved, and now they want nothing with marketing on MJF. So did you end up working yourself into an issue with your TV partner? It's one of those things, man. Wrestling's about blurring that line. It's about making you go, those are the best things when you know, hey, okay, I know this is a show, but now you've made me start believing otherwise. You're able to suspend that belief, that little bit. That's when wrestling's at its best. When it's storylines, you can sit there and go, oh, I know what's going to happen. Oh, that's going to happen. Oh, that's when the writing is just boring. You mentioned my girl Ronda earlier. That women's match I saw last night, while mildly entertaining, didn't hold a candle to Ronda and Charlotte. They stand around and do their choreography. Yeah, but you talking about the 5-way, or are you talking about Asuka against Becky? Choreography on each other and slap their legs. And but they're nice legs. But if you're talking about the 5-way, those matches are just, it's one of those things where you get too many people involved and everybody's got to get their moves. One timing's off, and it's got to be timed out perfectly almost in those matches. Let's see here. Do that voodoo that you do, bro. Writing and storylines are golden this year, no doubt. You think you think the storylines are good this year? Interesting. I mean, there are some good ones. Don't get me wrong. There are some good ones. But there's also some crappity crap. Yeah, but the 5-way, as I said, Steve, it's one of those things where you have to hit, that's why they usually try to eliminate 3 of the competitors outside, and then you have the 2 battle inside, and then when one of those go to break up the pin, boom, the other one comes in. Now those 2 go, the other one rolls out. It's the way it should happen. What happened last night was some of them didn't exit the ring, so then they're still in the ring, and then stuff got rushed, I think, and still there. Cap for life. Oh, wait a minute. Why we not all capitals, Cap? You messed me up here. I'm still wrapping my head over the fact that Ezekiel is not real. They got me with that one. I can't believe it. Don't worry. I'm going to say I'm on board with you too, man. They got me. Tony Zagales, what's up, my buddy? Yeah, they did get me too, man. I really thought I saw the picture, and it was Ezekiel, and it was Elias, and man, I was like, yeah, they're together. And then actually they showed KO with his brother. So I'm still waiting for that to happen. So we'll see what happens there as well. Let's see here. What else we got here on the wrestling program? Sorry, my notes page closed. Not a whole lot. I mean, most of the stuff that's going on right now really is just you got AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling, the 26th. That's actually this Saturday or this Sunday. This Sunday, I'm sorry, is the Forbidden Door. That's the pay-per-view for New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW. So that will probably highlight most of your Dynamite and Rampage this week leading into the AEW versus New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door pay-per-view. So we'll see what happens there on Dynamite tomorrow. So far, NXT, it's all right. I prefer AEW over WWE. Bromar, why do you prefer AEW over WWE? Why do you prefer that? I don't have a dog in a fight. I like them both. I got goods with both, and I got bads with both. But I would like to hear why you prefer the AEW over WWE. And also, are you a newer wrestling fan, or are you an older wrestling fan, Bromar? Yeah, I'll transfer over there, Cap. I'll check you out in a few. I'll transfer over when we finish here. Listen to Gio and Batman. Which one, Gio? Who does the ukulele, man? I need my intro song. Trying to see if Bromar comes back here. I know we're like a minute off or so I'm hoping he comes back in there. And like I said, I got goods and bads with both. I'm not in the argument. Look, I was a wrestler in the the 90s and things like that, and size was a thing. It was always a thing. You had it was the Vince McMahon thinking method, right? You had to be a certain build, certain size. The muscles, those muscles make you money. That was all his thinking, and unfortunately, usually that kind of serves right. But I think in this method of wrestling, this era of wrestling that we're in now, with the streaming and with everything else, I think if you can get people invested in characters, it doesn't matter the damn size, man. There's a lot of athleticism. There's a lot of things going on. The one thing that I will say is this. The one thing that kind of irks me, and again, and maybe I'm the old guy, get off my lawn. And there's a lot of stuff, and Hangman Adam Page, I think, said it pretty well today when he sent out his post. But here's my one thing I will say on this, man, is that my issue with some of the things that happened today is you get powerbombed 12 times. You get thrown through tables, thrown off balconies. You're 185, maybe 200 pounds, and you're kicking out of everything. I get it. It's pro wrestling. I understand that. But at what point do you get beat? You're not a damn superhero either. And I think some people have taken it up. Again, I'm not talking about the death matches and all that stuff. That's separate. But there used to be a time where you elevated the matches up, and then when you end the feud, you're doing the cage matches, you're doing a barbed wire match, depending on what way the feud went. Now you got shit starting in the freaking cage. That's the one thing that I think now is like, I used to like those builds. I used to like watching wrestling Saturday morning and watching, whatever. Go back even to the old days with Cowboy Ron Bass, and he's beating up Kendall Windham, and Barry Windham comes in to make the save. And then, and then he waits for Barry to turn around. He jumps him and he bloodies him up and this and that. Then you go watch it that night at the James L. Knight Center or wherever they are that night. And Barry comes out and he's got the bandage on his head, and he's still trying to recover from the beating that he took. Those were the times where, you could emphasize and you could, feel that. And you get invested in that. And that's what got me into wrestling. And everybody goes, oh, the size, this and that. Size don't mean crap, man. Size doesn't mean anything. And you're right. They have more colorful characters, but also I think it's what they do with the colorful characters, man. And right now, to me, they've got too many, and now they've got guys with injuries. So it's going to be interesting, Bromar, to see, because honestly, man, at times, I think, athletically, they probably have a better roster. I just don't know that they use them right and that they have enough time slotted to get across everything that they need to get across in their shows. And sometimes I think they try to put too much into their shows to where you can't sit and recognize what they want you to see. So it blows by. Then you watch a highlight or something the next day or on YouTube, and you're like, oh man, I didn't even realize that happened. And that has happened to me a couple of times, but I can see that. It's definitely got the more colorful characters. And it's one of those things. I go back to what, Paul Heyman said all the time, man. Accentuate the positives, hide the negatives. He was like, I was never going to be in an era where I can be in the same production echelon as the WWE. So why should I try? So I went with less lighting. I made sure the lighting was on the ring, on the entrance, That's what he accentuated. He accentuated the positives, the wrestling, the action, the violence. And that's what struck the chord with a lot of those guys. I mean, how Spike Dudley used to get thrown into the crowd and everybody would body surf him around everywhere he went. That's when you can get invested into storylines and even the characters. It doesn't have to be storylines necessarily. Storylines can help a character, but it's more on the character as well. You have to build that character to have that feeling. I mean, look what Daniel Bryan, the Yes Movement, right? But you also have to have good antagonists. At that time, it was Triple H, right? Daniel Bryan, you'll never be anything. I'll never let you be anything. The Authority was always on him and not going to let him do this. And they stack everything against him to where the fans are like, man, I'm going to start. This is the guy I want to cheer for now. And Daniel Bryan was the right guy at that time for that role. So he was able to build on it. And it turned into the Yes Movement. And you can still get that crap going today. Greater Good says loss of charisma storyline sucked. That wasn't the case in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, but also I think anything in the 80s and 90s, everybody, it was wrestling, man, at that time, dude. I mean, if you look back, what were some of the storylines? The NWO kicking everybody's ass? There wasn't a lot. I mean, it wasn't, when you go back through it. I mean, hell, I look back even further when you go back into maybe the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. It was, you had Dusty against the Horsemen, the Rock and Roll Express against the Midnight Express. Hell, you go over to WWE, it was Hogan against Heenan's family. You had Savage Steamboat. You had Rick Rude and the Ultimate Warrior, Rick Rude and Jake the Snake Roberts. I mean, when you look back at some of those, those, and there's other storylines. I'm not saying those were the only ones, but those were ones that you've built and you learned with. When wrestling went to monthly pay-per-views, I think you lost a lot of the storylines. Because now instead of, again, wrestling was, every 3-4 months you might get a pay-per-view which is what AEW does. She had more time to build on a storyline. You could attack Dusty Rhodes and break his arm and then have him return right before, the Great American Bash to take on Ric Flair. And you could have other guys, the Road Warriors, Nikita Koloff, the Rock and Roll Express fill in for those 3 months, with Dusty doing promos or whatever, and you could still build up the hatred for the Horsemen, which you were going to do through those guys, and then also waiting for that return of Dusty Rhodes. And then that Saturday night or that Friday night right before the Starrcade event or the Great American Bash, they're attacking, the Horsemen are attacking, Nikita and the Rock and Roll Express, and all of a sudden here comes Dusty for the save. And now you've already built up so much momentum, and now you bring them into, Charlotte, North Carolina, and it's Ric Flair against Dusty Rhodes in a steel cage. And you've built that up over that time. I don't think you have that time anymore. And also, I think the viewing has changed for fans to where they don't give you that time to build anymore. Not all fans, but most fans, their attention span isn't that. Their attention span now is 3 to 4 weeks. Change. 3 to 4 weeks, change. 3 to 4 weeks, change. 3 to 4 weeks, change. And I think that has to do with the way the pay-per-views are set up now. We've become accustomed to that. Tony Zagala says, Sean, do you see MJF in WWE? I will say this. His contract is up January 1st, 2024. And I would expect him to probably be WWE at that point. And I only say that I'll say it for, actually, let me rephrase this. He will be with WWE if Vince McMahon is still with the company. Because Vince McMahon will probably throw a good chunk of change at MJF. And to me, MJF is in it for that money, that paycheck. Not that he doesn't like wrestling, but he also understands his talent and his value. And I don't know if, again, maybe this whole thing started because Tony Khan, had wanted to give him more money, but wanted to increase his years. And MJF's like, well, then that's not giving me more money. You're giving me this much more money and you're extending me a year. So you're actually, working it out of me that way. So this all stemmed from money. So MJF wants to get paid. And I think his bigger payday will be going to WWE. That's if Vince McMahon in charge. If Vince McMahon is not in charge, then you know what? He might be at AEW. Greater Good says War Memorial, Miami Beach Convention Center is where I went. Yep. And Sunrise Musical Theater as well. Yep. It was the War Memorial. It was Sunrise Musical Theater. It was Miami Beach Convention Center. James L. Knight Center usually was WWE. When they came down, they went to the James L. Knight Center. Let's see. Killer Khan broke Andre's ankle. Greg Valentine broke Chief Jay Strongbow's leg. Believable feuds and heat. Hugely lacking today. Yeah, but they also were able to do that because he had more time to build up. You had a lot longer to build up and things like that. I mean, you still see that now. Like, for instance, what you just saw recently, right, with Cody and Seth. Cody was not going to wrestle in the Money in the Bank, but he acted like he was going to, he was getting the fans into it that, hey, I'm going to be there and I'm going to be, the Money in the Bank winner. Seth came out, shook his hand like, hey, I respect you. I went back out. And then he attacked him with the sledgehammer, right? To set up so when Cody comes back from injury, he's probably going to be feuding with Seth Rollins. And who knows? By then, hey, Seth Rollins could win Money in the Bank, cash it in. He could be the champ. Cody Rhodes comes back. Cody Rhodes, your new champion, all wrapped in a bow. All done. There you go. But I think it was more believable because, again, long-term storytelling, man. I just think nowadays, for instance, man, I think AEW did a great job at the beginning with their long-term storytelling. Hangman Adam Page was in the original main event against Chris Jericho to crown the first ever AEW heavyweight champion. He failed. He lost. And then he went back, and they did the thing. And then he became tag team partners with Kenny Omega. They won the tag team titles. They were doing very well at that. During that time, Moxley beats Jericho, becomes the second AEW champion. Some friction starting between Omega and Hangman, right? Omega ends up turning on Hangman. Hangman's still fluctuating, kind of, never gotten back to that heavyweight title shot. Omega beats Moxley, wins the AEW championship. And then, he's cutting the promo, and then here came Hangman Adam Page. Hangman Adam Page wanted him. He said, if you beat this person, you get the title shot. They do the whole thing there. Kenny Omega, I think, came out and cost Hangman Adam Page the last victory. He doesn't get there. Then he ultimately gets it to where he cashes in. He wins the match, and then he gets to fight Kenny Omega. 2 years in to AEW is when he beats Kenny Omega to become the AEW heavyweight champion. So for 2 years, it was Hangman Adam Page losing and then building it back up to become the AEW heavyweight champion. Again, no broken ankles, nothing there. But the storyline was always there. Tony Khan had his first 4 heavyweight champions figured out. Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page. And now it's CM Punk is number 5. And we'll have to see. CM Punk hurt his foot. He's out. They're going to do an interim at AEW Forbidden Door. Moxley And we'll have to see what happens there. And then ultimately they're going to bring it back. And it'll be the interim champion versus CM Punk when CM Punk returns. And they will decide an AEW heavyweight champion at that point. They kind of went a little UFC-ish on that. But again, Tony Khan, good friends with Dana White. So now he took some of Dana White's things and was like, why am I going to strip him of the title? I'll just make an interim, and now I have a built-in match when he returns. You never know. That might work. The San Martino-Zbyszko feud and Piper-Snuka were major feuds. Yes, Piper, Greg Valentine in the NWA, the Mid-Atlantic Championship. The dog collar match. That's what made the dog collar match. Those two, Piper and Greg Valentine. San Martino-Zbyszko, that was the whole, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that the student teacher? They did that angle with them. He had trained them and then did their Snuka Morocco, another. That was a great feud for a while. Pack Song with the Korean Claw, yeah. Yeah, you had Ox Baker with the Heart Punch. That dude used to scare me, man. When I was younger, you'd be at the San Francisco Theater there waiting for autographs. He'd come out. That dude was scary. Scary, scary. Also Miami Beach, when you stood by the doors there, when they used to come in and walk that long hallway back to the back. Those were the good days, man. Those were the good days. Today was a good day. So WWE, NXT still going. Toxic Attraction in the ring right now. Yes, brilliantly done. Zbyszko was such a, yeah. He always was, man. Dude, Zbyszko was funny too, man, because like you would look at him and say, some of his stuff but then man, he knew how to make you hate him. And I'm talking about the later Zbyszko now, when he was teaming with Arn Anderson, he was in the Dangerous Alliance. He just had that like I'm so much better than you and I know it attitude. He was kind of like what MJF is now. You know, he didn't say much, but he did those smirks and it was kind of like that little laugh, a little thing that he did there. And you're just like, God, I hope somebody kicks his ass. And then of course he went into broadcasting. And of course you knew he was going to be a great broadcaster, and that he did. I loved him on the Nitros. And there, yeah, he was a great talker. Man, it's so funny, man. I was listening to some not necessarily shoot interviews. There were some interviews with Brian James. There was also one with Paul Heyman. Some other times there before, and it was interesting because Brian James, they asked him who his like dream opponent would be. And he said his brother, Brad. And I was thinking about it, I was like, man, dude, Brad Armstrong was so good and so underrated. He was almost too good. He was so good because he put everybody else over. He made everybody else look that much better. And I forgot that he was actually in the Freebirds when they went to WCW. He wrestled under the mask as Bad Street. And I always remember him as Candyman, Brad Armstrong. And he had to like the checker, the red and white tights and all that stuff. But man, he could go so much. And I was thinking about like in today's age, Brad Armstrong would probably be a champion. Brad Armstrong would probably be a world champion in today's wrestling world. But back then, too small. Too small. But man, he could go. Motor would never stop. Let's see. Big O, welcome to the world of wrestling. Yes, Big O. Big O would have made a hell of a wrestler. I wonder what would his finish be? Big O, let's give him a finishing move. What would Big O's finisher be? I can see him doing the Hulk Hogan leg drop. Let's see. You can do the Hulk Hogan leg drop there. I don't see Big O being a high flyer, though, right? Big O doesn't go to the top rope, right? Let me see what we get coming in here. Let's see. You think we can do really, Steve, the big splash, huh? Yeah. Now do we do the frog splash or do we do just a regular splash? Do we got Big O doing the frog splash? I see O doing the Rikishi. That's what I could see him doing. The Rikishi. Anybody else got him doing the Rikishi? Oh, you talking about the splash? Okay, from the that was just hitting the ropes and then jumping on them. Okay, no climbing the ropes there, O. So you'd be fine. You don't have to climb the ropes. You just hit the ropes and then drop on them, like the Haystacks Calhoun move. Yeah, that would work. Yeah, we could do that. What would we call it though? Be the big O? No, the O-American Dream. Oh boy, that's it. Big O's give himself a name now. That's it. He's the American Dream. The American Dream, Big O. Oh, man. All right. Thanks, everybody. Steve, Bromar, Dad, O, Greater Good, Bromar, Jaime, Tony, everybody else. Cap, thank you guys for being in here today. Appreciate y'all as always. Thank you so much for the love. Oh, the O of woe. Yeah, dude. Yes. Okay. All right. We could do that. But hey, keep them coming. Keep them coming. We'll go over the rest of them Thursday night back here, 8 o'clock, right here talking wrestling on the Big O Radio Show YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe also to our other YouTube channel, Big O Show Cuts. And you can get the podcast on anywhere of your podcasting platforms. And as always, in the words of the great Gordon Soley, so long from the sun, shine, state.
If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your Inter Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or intermiamiwear.com.